Hello and welcome to another episode of the interview series for VIT Today. Today, we have with us Mr. Paresh Vaish, EY India's business consulting partner and a Harvard Business School alumnus. Sir was previously a partner and member of the investment committee of SFW Capital Partners, a specialized private investment firm. Prior to SFW, Sir was also a senior partner at McKinsey and the co-founder of McKinsey's India practice, before which he also worked with BCG as a partner and managing director. We're extremely glad to have you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's jump to our first question. So you have a plethora of experience under your beret, the most recent of which has been heading the performance improvement segment for EY India. Apart from your exemplary work for EY India, you held prestigious posts in other consulting groups like McKinsey and BCG. How has the journey of these two companies differed from your current role at EY?
I think all the firms are excellent firms. I think over time the firms have also evolved quite a bit, I would say. I think at EY, the difference has been that EY brings a variety of different competencies that McKinsey and BCG don't have. For example, they have their own investment bank. They have a practice which focuses on taxation, and a number of other competencies which enables EY to provide a lot more services that the other firms did not provide.
So as college students ourselves, a lot of us end up facing the dilemma of trying to figure out the perfect career paths to pursue. So what advice do you have to help students and people in general to make relevant career choices?
I think what you really need to think about is what do you enjoy doing and what are you good at, right? I think those two things are both important, and rather than focusing on what it is that your friends want to do or what seems to be the fashion nowadays, right? I think people really need to reflect on those two things, and once they figure that out, then it should really not be a job. It should be something you enjoy, and then automatically you'll find that you're very successful in your career.
Absolutely, sir. So people these days tend to migrate into the popular fields of the industry as there's a greater demand for skill set in those industries. So this leads on to creating an increasing supply and demand gap in the niche layers of the industry. So what are your 2 cents on this? And do you think there's a way to curb this growing hole in the industry layer?
If your question is there a need to curb people going into the high demand areas?
Yes, sir.
I don't think you can curb it. I think if people want to show interest, they should show interest, right? But ultimately, the firms have people who are trained and who look for people who have the right skills, who will be successful in those firms. So ultimately, the firms are able to really identify those people and then make offers to them. So at Harvard Business School, for example, McKinsey would interview pretty much the entire graduating class which applied to McKinsey, but yet they would make offers to only 1/6 of the people who were interviewed. So it means there's more work for the consulting firms or whatever other firms that you apply to. But no, I would encourage students to apply wherever they feel they would like to work, and leave it to the companies to figure out if they are a good fit for them.
Oh, what was the inspiration that ignited the ember of the idea of a career in management consulting for you? And what leads to you feeling confident that this was the right career path to pursue? And also, what skills would you say are essential for a graduate today who wants to pursue a fruitful career in the same field?
These are great questions. I think from my perspective, management consulting was a bit of an accidental career. When I was graduating from business school, it was considered one of the most popular careers. It sounded like fun, so I thought I would try it for my summer job. And so I tried it in the summer, and I got a return offer to join McKinsey back in the US in Los Angeles. And so I decided to go back and join McKinsey, having enjoyed my work. But having to be honest with you, before business school, I had not even heard of consulting. It was just something that came up during my first year at business school, and I liked the diversity. I liked the kind of people I met, and I liked the kind of opportunity to work with senior clients. So those things got me very excited, and I decided to continue in that space. Uh, as to your second question, in terms of what are the skills in management consulting that are really required for a person, I think ultimately we look for there are two or three main things that you want to really have in consulting. One is the ability to solve problems, right? Solve, because ultimately consulting is about solving perhaps the most difficult problems in the world, right? Because companies turn to you when they can't solve problems themselves. So that is important, and that requires a sense of curiosity and an ability to think in a very structured way. The second is the ability to connect with people, right? I think consulting is a very people business, as you know. It's about people uh, within the organization, but also more importantly, people outside the organization, i.e., your clients. And are you able to build relationships with people effectively? Are you able to work with them effectively? Is also a second most important, a very important skill. And a third one, which is my favorite, which I want to highlight, is communication skills. It's really important that you're able to communicate well and clearly, both in writing and orally. And I find this is a very important success factor in consulting. People who are able to communicate clearly find that they're much more effective than those who are not able to communicate clearly. So I can go on, but I think those are some of the main ones that I would focus on.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, in one of the works that you had published, you had talked about industries such as steel and capital goods manufacturing can create the possibility of cross-sector economic growth by following the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. Now, although unique in its perspective, there can be a lot of technical difficulties and challenges that will prove to be a roadblock in the success of such an initiative. To name the primary concern, the financial power required to back this initiative. So, what are your views on this, and how do we overcome such hurdles?
I think any project or business that opportunity that has economic merit will always attract financial resources or other resources required to succeed, people, etc. So, in my view, entrepreneurs and people who are thinking about opportunities should not worry too much about constraints such as financial constraints, as long as you're looking at a good project. There is today in the global economy much more money following chasing very few good opportunities, and so very quickly you'll find very large amounts of capital if you have a good project. So I think the important thing is to identify good business opportunities, as the steel sector, for example, today, for a number of reasons, is turning out to be very attractive in India, and you're seeing a lot of growth, both in the valuation of companies that are in that sector, but also investments for future in that sector, because that's become a high demand area. So again, focusing on those to me is much more important, than the rest of it ends up falling in place quite effectively.
Okay, so over the years, our country has seen one of the largest worldwide cases of brain drain. Even now, most of the top brains of our country dream of working abroad, which is one of the primary factors hindering the growth of our own country. So, what, according to you, is the incentive that is driving people to work in foreign institutions, and what can we do to curb this trend from progressing further?
I mean, I think the attraction of working abroad stems from obviously the compensation levels, the reward levels that you're able to earn overseas vis-a-vis a country like India. The average CEO in Wall Street might make between 10 and 20 or 30 million dollars, right? The average CEO in India may make between $1 and $3 million, right? There's a 10x difference, right? If you take just CEO compensation, for example. And so obviously people are attracted by the rewards. Rewards are an important motivator, but also the environment that they see overseas, which is they find much more easy for doing business. So I think these are some of the factors that work in the favor of people getting attracted to work overseas. But my view is India has a large amount of talent, so I don't think we have just because some talent chooses to move overseas, it doesn't mean we don't have adequate amounts of talent that ends up staying in India. But what can India do to make it even more attractive? I think in some of these things, it's rewarding talent which delivers value. So there are some, for example, technology companies such as Infosys and Tech Mahindra, which will reward people when they do well and they deliver value for the company. So companies need to think much more about how do you reward talent, attract talent, create environments for talent which are very enjoyable for them to work in, so that they feel like working there and want to build long-term careers there. And those kinds of things will ultimately end up creating those opportunities. Also, as the country facilitates the entry of multinationals, such as the same companies that work so successfully in Silicon Valley and others into India, they bring with them the same cultures and opportunities to India, so people can remain in India and still work with those companies and contribute to the growth not only of those companies but also of India. So those are some of the things that can be done to address this.
Right. Okay. So recently it was quoted that we are stepping into the AI age of development. And in today's digital world, with new developments eradicating our perception of what is impossible, the bar is set high every day. So what do you think will be the butterfly effect of such development across different industries, and especially the corporate industry? And do you think it will affect the development strategies set for different companies?
Yeah, I think technology, AI is nothing but application technology to business in many ways, right? And I think that is fundamentally transforming almost every industry that you can think about. So you should assume that AI will radically change pretty much every industry. And you've seen it in if you go industry by industry, whether it's the hotel industry with Airbnb or the car industry with Uber, industry after industry is finding that music industry with Apple and what they've done with music, that it's gonna get affected by technology. And so the question for companies is, how do they leverage technology to to change their industries before somebody else does it ahead of them, right? So I think that's the challenge that all our clients, CEOs of companies are facing today is how do we think about technology? What can we do to benefit from it? So one of the examples of that is what's called twinning. So they essentially take a company's business and they replicate that business in software. So for example, you could have a steel plant and you could actually model how that steel plant works inside software. And then you can actually check, supposing you change the inputs to that steel plant, what will happen to the output, what will happen to the cost of inputs, is there a way to optimize those? And these are all things you can model on software without any wasted money in trying out experiments as to what might work, what might not. Now imagine that allows you to fundamentally change the way you work in that plant, which you could not do before because the software wasn't there to help you optimize. So this is the kind of thing that companies after companies are having to think about and are doing today to leverage technology to transform themselves.
Right.
I hope that gives you
Okay.
an idea.
Yes, sir. Okay, so the recent pandemic has trampled several developing companies, but it has also shifted the way people perceive different aspects of the industry as well. So, in terms of your areas of expertise, how do you think the Indian consumer has evolved in parallel to the pandemic?
I think the consumer has become much more tech savvy for one thing. I think they are having to learn how to leverage technology, uh, both in terms of the way they handle money. So their whole digitization of finance in India has been accelerated. I think one of my colleagues in London recently studied the evolution of technology during the pandemic and said it has grown sevenfold in 1 year, and I think it's grown as much in 1 year as it has in the last 50 years. So the acceleration of the use of technology is one thing I think you're seeing with respect to consumption for consumers. I think the second thing you're seeing with consumers is they are realizing how much you can actually what you can do without, what you can't do without. So people have been surprised with how much spending was going on, which was not quote unquote essential. So that's led to a shift towards more basic goods, which are more essential in nature. Um, but I think more than anything else, it has revolutionized the entire marketplace in terms of the use of technology. To me, that's the biggest shift that's happened. So, if you take the technology companies in the world today, they're growing by leaps and bounds because the need for both the services and their products are very dramatically grown because of this, and consumers are increasingly using those products very aggressively.
So, thank you for joining us today, sir. It was an absolute delight having you. And I'm sure a lot of students would find this conversation insightful and will help shape their future as well. Thank you once again.